Hello everyone, I'm Carson Stutes and I'll be presenting on behalf of our team. The impact and higher costs associated with living can be found through increase in economic inequality, especially in the distribution of metropolitan areas. This can lead to shaping economic income policy and social stratification. As income inequality is one of the most urgent issues of our time, it becomes important to have a deeper understanding in how it can affect society. In this presentation, we will explore how conflict theory and the paired concepts of inequality and privilege, as well as power and resistance, can help in viewing the high cost of living through a sociological lens. When we view conflict through a sociological perspective, we can begin to understand how its impact on society can be explained through derived theories. One such theory is conflict theory, which argues the social structures and social systems emerge out of conflicts between different groups. The theory focuses on inequality in how resources like money, housing, and wages are unevenly distributed. It helps to explain how wealthier groups, such as landlords, corporations, and policymakers, have more control over prices. Also, the high cost of living can be seen as a result of power imbalances where lower income individuals struggle with others' profit. The idea behind the paired concept of inequality and privilege centers on the uneven distribution of social resources, with the separation brought out through the creation of more resources. When we introduce economic inequality with the high cost of living, we can begin to see how one's socioeconomic status can change. Benefits can be found through the production of better services or amenities, but those can also place financial strains on society. The ability to create a standard of living that can be a direct byproduct associated with the high cost of living within a community. It is understood that the rural areas tend to be poorer than the urban areas. Costs can introduce diversity into the population mix with people with different backgrounds into the communities. Education and transportation systems can increase in quality as better services can be obtained. The high cost of living can be seen in the affordability of housing, as inequality forces residents to either rent or buy homes. Education can be more difficult to obtain with the increased cost of limiting access. Healthcare systems can impose higher costs, further limiting residents' ability to gain access, while permitting fewer leftover funds to be applied to savings. Overall, uneven distribution of costs can place tremendous financial strains on families and communities. But some say otherwise, as Scottish philosopher Adam Smith said, believed normal levels of inequality encourage people to work harder, leading to greater levels of innovation and economic productivity. The instability created through inequality can be found through the limited options available for economic mobility and consistent movement. The bonding and cohesion can become lost. Through the higher costs as trust becomes difficult in unequal societies. Migratory trends can become affected, with individuals and families seeking improved lifestyles. Although this is good news, as areas of growth tend to outpace the changes in living cost. Individual or family status can be found through their positions in society. But as division grows, so do crime rates, mental health, and overall community well-beings. Inequalities and privileges can affect political stability, which can lead to unequal democratic principles, or even be felt through what was once thought of as an equal voice. Also, people with more resources have an easier time gaining positions of political leadership. Radical ideologies and hate crimes can develop out of feelings of exclusion or rejection in the established systems. When wealth is redistributed to only a few individuals, history has shown us that corruption can influence the foundation of democracy. People or groups shape what others do think or have access to. Sometimes it's about force. Sometimes it's about persuasion, and sometimes it's baked into the everyday systems, so becoming so natural you barely notice it. Resistance happens when people push back against the power whenever they come together to protest, into the streets, or quietly refuse to play by the rules in their daily lives. It can be loud and obvious, or hidden and subtle. Power decides who sets the rules for wages, housing, and prices. Big companies and government officials call the shots when it comes to rent, how much housing is available, and what people get paid at work. When cost climbs or pay stays slow, people push back, protesting, organizing better wages, or demanding rent control. All this just makes it clear the folks making the decisions aren't always the ones feeling the consequences. Examples of power and resistance can be found all around us. Labor strikes are demanding higher wages, as can be seen through service workers, delivery drivers, and other fighting for better benefits. Tenant unions resisting rent increases in social media campaigns, exposing corporate pricing practices, are utilizing their voice and power to create change. Also, public protests against the inflation and economic inequality can be seen in voicing their opposition. Solutions to power and resistance struggles can be found through creative alternative methods. Policies that are able to redistribute power can be found through minimum wage increases. Rent control or affordable housing programs can offer alternative solutions to living. Strengthening a collective approach can be seen in labor unions and community organizing efforts. Also, increased transparency from corporations could be done with communities encouraging civic participation in order to influence policy decisions. The high cost of living can create tremendous strains on individuals and families as they attempt to maintain a certain standard. The conflict theory showed us how inequality can unevenly distribute resources, that wealthier groups often have more control over prices, or even how power imbalances can create struggles. The paired concept of inequality and privilege showed that socioeconomic status can impact society through economic, social, and political challenges. Also, the paired concept of power and resistance can play a role in the high cost of living environment. As labor strikes, union involvement, social media, and public protests fight for equality. Through viewing the high cost of living through a sociological lens, we can have a deeper understanding on its effects within society in order to make the challenges necessary for a better future. Thank you.